Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, what's happening, everybody?
Sam Healey, what's up, y'all?
My ears look reversed. All right, folks, we have been talking about the game SeaFall. We've done 3 reviews of it already, but this is the last one we're going to do. Actually, it's one of 2. We're going to do a non-spoilery review, and so if you're watching this, we're talking about the entirety of the game SeaFall, but we're going to try to not spoil anything in it, and then we'll do one that's full of spoilers. So we will start out by saying, in interest of disclosure, we did not finish the campaign. We played through the prologue and 6 games, so I guess it's 7 total. And we realized that we weren't going to get. We didn't want to go any farther.
Right.
We're
calling it.
Yeah, it was taking almost 3 hours per game. So that we had 21 hours to this game. I feel that that's very legitimate. Enough amount of time, and then we opened everything up and looked at everything to see what we missed in case we would weep and wail.
And there was not that much left. I also want to make sure we mention we had seen most of what this game had to offer.
Yeah.
And by a generous most.
Right, so coming into this, our very first review, you and me were a little worried, and you were more hopeful.
I was optimistic, yes.
Okay, so now...
It's been a while, but okay.
Well, yeah. So now where are we at this game? I guess we should start, before we talk about the game, we should just tell people what we think, would you play through it again?
No.
No.
Well, we didn't finish the first time. I guess that's kind of obvious. Did you like it, though, overall?
No.
This is going to be a short review. No.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't like it either, although there were parts of it that I did like. I liked the idea of the book. The game introduced something that we used in our very last game. It was something that hadn't been revealed up to that point, which I thought was a really great idea, but it came into implementations very slowly and wasn't nearly as exciting to make up for the rest of the game.
Right.
Did you like that final thing?
If it's the final thing that I think you're talking about, yeah, it was neat, but it seemed really gimmicky to me. I mean, I
don't mind a gimmick, but...
Well, I don't necessarily either, but in this kind of game, I'm investing that much time into it. I'm looking for more than a gimmick to wow me. And that's basically all this was. It was a little gimmick.
I guess for me, at the end of the day, my main issue with the game is that I find it to have an identity crisis. It's a game that's trying to do a lot of things, and maybe shouldn't have. It's a game that tries to be a 4X deep exploration kind of game, right? And that's known. That's not a spoiler. And it is that, but it's also so many other styles of games brought together that at the end, what you get is a soup in which you could not make up your mind if you wanted it to be a corn soup or a bean soup, or you ended up throwing all the ingredients in the kitchen you could find, and it tastes like it. It tastes like everything, which means it tastes like nothing.
So if you're just coming in for the first time, if you haven't watched any of the other ones, real quickly, we're not showing the game or how to play it because our board is pretty spoiler at this point in time. But essentially in this game, each person is a province, and it takes place during in alternative history colonial times. And it's in some unknown part of the world. It doesn't really give you a feeling, but it feels Caribbean-ish to some degree, or out in Asian islands or what have you. And you're going out and discovering islands, and you have different actions that you'll take, and you are finding different resources, buying and selling those resources, getting money, upgrading your ships, getting special abilities for your ships, going out and finding and exploring adventures, almost like a choose-your-own-adventure to some degree. The game is a mix between this whole economic game, where you're buying and selling cubes and then using those to get things, and it's also a mix of, hey, roll a whole pile of dice to see if something happens. You are attacking other people, you are finding exploring exotic areas and seeing what happens. And for me, the biggest problem with that is I'm not sure who that's for.
Right, which is what I'm saying with the whole, every flavor thrown in there. I could understand some folks liking aspects of it, but it's going to be a very, and like Tom said, we like aspects of it, but it's going to be a very small group of people that enjoy all of these things together in the same session.
So there's several notes that I wrote down about, I was writing through our game today. One of the things I did not like about the game was that our characters were not heroic. Mm-hmm. Not only were they not heroic, I mean, even worse, I think they were forgettable. My character was never defined in any sort of way. All the different people who worked for me, I didn't know. I mean, the game comes with advisors. And they were like the most interesting part of the game. We were giving them backstories and talking about them, but we never knew who our character was. And our character, I felt like, acted like a jerk the entire game. And
not because of things that you did either. It's the setting
it's how
the book was written.
Yeah,
it's how the book was written. Your character, the different exploits, you had no control over why you were doing this. It was all written into the book for you. You're doing this because, well, I want to exploit the natives. Well, what if I don't want to exploit the natives? What if I wanted to live peaceably with them? No, you have to, because that's how the book's written.
Right, the choice might be, do you want to steal from them when they're not looking, or walk in and take it by force?
Right.
Can I pick none of those? But it's not even just that. The whole thing was, you are a selfish egomaniac in this game. The whole thing is about getting glory, but not in a cool way. It's not like Civilization or something where it's like, oh, look at this. It's more like, look who I browbeat in a submission and did this and stole this from here. I never felt like I was heroic at all.
And the problem, part of it is, like you said, that you have a hard time identifying with this person because in the game, you rarely, if ever, develop your character. You develop your ships. Like, you get a better ship, or you upgrade that, like your vehicle. But your avatar in this game barely changes from the very beginning. I have the exact same involvement in the person I'm supposed to be from game one to now. And that's not good. I want to be invested. If something bad happens, I want it to matter to me. I want to shape this person, and legacy games should be all about that. At the end, I need to remember this person a year from now like I played a role-playing campaign. And I will forget my character in 2 weeks.
Definitely, because we did. We came back and I was like, oh yeah, what am I doing again type situation. Another thing I didn't like was this game purports itself almost like it's a sandbox game. Hey, you want to go explore? Explore. You want to go fight people? Fight people. You want to do trading? Do the trading. But in reality, the game consistently was saying, oh, you want to do that? You can't. Do this. It didn't tell us exactly, but it kept pushing us in certain directions.
Well, it didn't tell you exactly, but it made it overwhelmingly difficult for you to do this action or that action, but very simple to do this action.
Yeah, it's find the path of least resistance or lose consistently.
Yep.
Which is basically saying, you got to do this right now. And then later on in the campaign, okay, now we want you to do this, so we're going to make this impossibly difficult. So yeah, it's a little too, I don't want to say hand-holding, but it puts on the blinders a few times in the game and in very strong ways.
And in many of these games, especially legacy games, again, we've only played 2 other legacies besides this, Risk Legacy and Pandemic Legacy, but even when I play games like Civilization and games on the computer, I am getting better and better as time goes by. My challenges will get harder to match that. But in this game, even all the way up at the end, I didn't feel like I was better. In fact, I felt like I was more hobbled by different things going on. It felt... The last game we played was the hardest one we played. We played for 7 turns before we even did almost anything. And that was just incredibly not fun. Who likes that? I mean, did you feel that way? We were it was like, you can't do anything yet. Still can't do anything.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. We had a situation come up. I mean, a few different things came together for a lot of turns of, okay, this turn I'm going to take half a turn. You get 2 actions on a turn, and we spent sometimes turns doing just one, because you couldn't make good use of both your actions. That's, again, like you said, not fun. I want to feel like a hero. I want to feel powerful. The more I play this game, I want to look at my character and say, that's me. I am here now. I am going to do great things. That's just not happening in this game.
Another problem with the game is the downtime. We mentioned how each game takes 3 hours. We play with 4 players. We play with 4 players consistently. That game has some rules about taking people in and out of the game. If I was going to play this game again, definitely would only play it with 3, for sure. And if playing with 5, oh my. Can you imagine playing that with 5?
Way too
Because not
much
only would
downtime.
5 add to the downtime, but 5 would also stretch, the resources don't change. The amount of resources in the game don't change in a number of players. So you would have that many more resources being taken by other people, and then you would be forced to attack other players. And
which, again, is the game going, you have to do this.
yeah, even if you don't like attacking other people, this game is really kind of like egging you in that direction. But the downtime for me, because you couldn't like plan your move out ahead of time because it might change dramatically. No, this is all subjective, I think, the different opinions we have. But I think there's one game that the game objectively does wrong, and maybe people disagree with me on this, but the points. I really feel like the point.
Finally, he comes around to my point of view.
Yes, and I will admit that I did not agree with Sam on this in the beginning, but I definitely agree now. There are milestone cards that the game starts with some and more show up as time goes by, and if you complete these milestones, you get a ton of points. And if you are the second person to complete that milestone, you don't actually get any points at all. In fact, if you were about to complete a milestone and the game ends, you don't get any points. And I don't know that I have yet seen a game won by someone who didn't get milestones. It's almost always a milestone.
A lot of points.
It's a lot of points, and the game gives you... Sometimes you can do really hard and difficult things, and here's your point. And other times you do something and it's like, hey... drown in these points, baby!
Yeah, you randomly roll the dice, and oh, look, you get 4 points.
Which, again, is going back to what I said, this is a game concept, this luck-driven point generation that doesn't belong in a 3-hour heavy exploration 4X style game. I want to earn my points in that game. I want to do better than someone else. I don't want you to pick a number, read a passage, and you now have 3 points because you picked the right number. Or you rolled on one roll and boom, got something I couldn't do over the last 3 rounds. That's the big beef there for me, is these things are at odds. You know, I like both of those games, just not at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with Z. I really like that. Luck rolling I don't mind rolling a ton of dice, but in this game, sometimes rolling a whole pile of dice is one major thing that is your whole game revolves around that roll, and you win or lose based on luck. And that's just, or sometimes as the game got by, a card draw would just be really bad luck and would actually physically cause you to lose the game. And to the point where I'm actually going to agree with Sam on something else, too, that he said earlier and I disagreed with.
Oh, he's getting all the brownie points.
And this is the carrying stuff over from game to game.
Right.
Now, I don't care so much about the reset, because I know that you have to reset to some degree, because otherwise the game wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Sure.
But it isn't fun to reset when you are on the cusp of getting something which you are allowed to keep from game to game. And there's a few things that the game allows you to keep from game to game. And you almost get it, and then the game resets. Or you're almost to one of those cards we're talking about, those milestone cards. You almost get one, and then the game resets. And that puts you back to 0, and sometimes even worse than 0, because someone who did get something that can be carried over from the game to game starts the next one with an advantage.
Right.
And that became more pronounced as the game went by, I thought, to the point where some players, I mean, the game tries to have this catch-up mechanism where, you know, if you're behind, you get some stuff, but some people had clear advantages over others.
Yeah.
Our final game, I went in with a clear advantage over you guys. I didn't win because of luck, but I had an advantage.
Yeah.
And the game has event cards that happen, and those event cards will change as the game goes by. And I was really, really wanting to punch the person who wrote them about the last game. Now that's kind of violent, but I was hating it.
Well, event cards should be random event that will punish someone randomly. And you know about it, one round. I mean, that round, you know about it. You don't get to peek ahead. You don't get to make a plan. You know about it at the beginning of the round, and you have one action, like one turn, to deal with that event. And it's just, again, if something happens to come up at the right time and doesn't affect me, yay, I'm on easy street. Good luck to you. If, something comes along as I'm about to do something important, and that event hurts or nullifies what I was about to do, good luck to you guys. I got hosed. That's not fun, That's the bad kind of events.
So what did you think? We already talked a little bit about we didn't feel like we were heroes. We didn't know about our character. But what about the overall story? When we first started the game was very mundane. The story was very boring, frankly. How did you feel it progressed? We can't go into spoilers. I can't tell you what happened. We'll talk about that in our spoiler review. But where did you think the ending came?
I thought the storyline was good. That's the one thing about the game that really interested me. The except for the constant bashing of colonialism and all of that kind of stuff, kind of force feeding that point of view. I didn't like that, but the overarching story, when the other things got into it, as far as I don't want to say too much, but the extra elements that were added into the storyline to make it a little bit more fantastical, I guess you could say. Those were the things that I really enjoyed, and I wouldn't mind playing a game. But see, the problem was they were implemented too slowly.
Oh, and I agree.
Mean, they were just. It's like they were just. Just the tip of the spoon was for
do you
each
feel
game.
like? I agree that I like the elements being introduced in the game as we went along, but do you feel like they actually mattered in the gameplay experience,
No,
or were
it
they
didn't.
basically mentioned?
That was my next point.
Yeah.
They were implemented too slowly, and ultimately, the overarching storyline really doesn't have anything to do with how you're actually playing the game.
Right, it doesn't change the gameplay very much anyway.
Well, my biggest problem, though, was that they introduced all the stuff. It's like, oh, here's some really cool stuff. Here's some really cool stuff. And yet I was still doing that really mundane stuff kept showing up. Like, it's this big world-changing thing is going on over here. And then I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm going to go pick up some wood. I hope these natives sell it to me. And it's like, what? Wasn't I doing that in game one? Why are we still talking about this when this other, much more grandiose stuff is going on?
That's the thing, it's the story elements are there. Things happen, you read about them, you hear about them, but it's almost like you're an extra in your own story, There's, you are listening to what's going on over there. It's great, it's epic, it's wonderful. And you're the guy who chops wood at the port. And you got to get up and go chop some wood. That's your job.
Sam did something which I thought was like world-changing in our last game. I thought it was like, that was it. What's going to happen? And it was like, they were like, okay, good job, moving on. Now, and I was like, what?
Yeah, even more people hate you now.
It was just, okay. Well, the one more thing is the rules for the game are not that, they're okay at best. We were still talking about this enmity thing. While it's a kind of an interesting concept, we looked it up every single game. Every single game.
By the
multiple times per
21st
game.
hour of you playing a game, you still need to look up rules every other turn. You need a better rule book or fewer rules.
Well, it's not even just that, though. The biggest problem with this game is that it introduces rules as the game goes by. And some of those are in the rule book, some are not. And there's also questions. Like we had a couple major rules questions, and we're looking and saying, well, this says this and this says this. Is that how they work together? And there's no way to look. I looked up online. I couldn't find anything. It's hard to look because it's spoilerific.
Right. Sure. And it makes sense that it's difficult to put together the rule book for a game like this. We get that. We understand. but you have the ability to tell us, frequently asked questions in your game, hidden in a box somewhere. You don't have to. That stuff doesn't have to be in the rule book, but some of these questions, it seems, would be obvious, would have come up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a couple
would have been dealt with somewhere in there.
So, I don't know. For me, unfortunately, in the long run, I would rate this a 5, maybe a thumbs down. I don't hate it. I didn't hate the gaming experience, but I really have zero desire. The stuff that we opened and we looked at, we're like, oh, that is pretty cool. But I don't feel like, oh, Tom, you missed out playing it. I was like, oh, okay, that would have been fun, but that would have taken us 10 games to go through this, which I think could have fit into one game. That kind of thing. It's an interesting experiment, and I think Rob Daviau is still a really great designer. Okay, I think that what he put together here is impressive, but I would put it on the same level I put Friedman Fries's 504. Okay?
I wouldn't.
Well, no, what I mean is 504, I looked at 504 when it's done, I said, wow, you created something that worked. This came together, it worked, it just wasn't that much fun. And that's where I kind of with SeaFall. He put together some very unique concepts. He did some interesting things, and he put it all together, but it just doesn't, it works, but it just wasn't fun for me. And I tried to have fun, and I did have fun at some points, and some of the aspects, like I still think the advisors is great. I love that aspect. I love that we got to name them, and spoiler stuff, in the future. I loved everything about the advisors. They were by far the best part of the game, but I really thought that the book of adventures would be my favorite part. And that it was not. It wasn't even close. It was almost at a point where, I was trying to get excited about reading it, but when you got it, you were like, and you read it because it wasn't that interesting.
Because they lacked personality, A lot of the entries sounded copy-paste material. Again, the story is there. It's just happening around you. It's, you are not in it, it feels like. Something happens and nothing changed once that encounter, once that moment is done, You don't feel like, I now know this. I am changed forever. That never really, that didn't feel that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would agree with you. As far as an experiment, this is interesting. A lot there was Rob Daviau did a lot with this game. It's a big thing. You can tell time and effort went into it. It just, for me personally, and I can't really speak for anybody else, of course, did not make for a fun game.
What would you rank it?
5 or a 4 right now.
Wow. Okay, so we all came down from our initial things. Well, maybe you didn't. You're at a 9,
I
you
didn't.
said?
A what? No, it was never that high. I wouldn't put it on the same level as 504. I think this is an echelon above.
Yeah, but you hated 504 to some degree.
I did because it was complete, total bland blocks and geometric shapes almost playing games with that.
No, I wasn't saying that. I'm just saying for me it was kind of the same thing where I can look at 504 and appreciate it. Same thing with SeaFall. I appreciate it. I just.
No, I understand
that. You
can
respect what it did, but it does not a fun game make.
I respect SeaFall for what it is over 504 because 504 just to me seemed like 504 ideas for games that may or may not be good, but they're 504 ideas, and here's all the stuff that you would need to play it. Have fun, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm saying like SeaFall has 504 entries in the rulebook, something like that, maybe less, but a lot of them weren't very fun at all.
True, but it was central around one game. And one
anyway,
thematic experience.
I didn't mean to derail into that. So what did you think about SeaFall as a whole?
SeaFall as a whole is probably a 4.5 to a 5 for me at best. And that's knowing everything that would come out to the stuff that we didn't play through and my experience of the game. I would have much rather. We played 6 games?
No, we played
6 plus the prologue.
Yeah, 6 plus the prologue. So 20. I think we're going with 21 hours here. I would have rather played 3 games of Twilight Imperium instead of playing this. And then with the knowledge that I can go back and play Twilight Imperium 3 next week or whatever, and I know I'll have just as much fun. Now, I understand that's one of my favorite games. My favorite game. You got to understand, I understand that. But the thing is this, shut up you two. The thing is this, I'm just leaving it out there. The thing is this, SeaFall, for me, started out as a possibility of being really great. And right now, it's not going to be great, in my opinion. And that's a huge, to have that much hope, to have that much potential, I guess you could say, and then just to not fulfill any of it, that's just, I'm not happy with this game at all.
As always, we're just three guys. There are lots of people who do seem to really love the game online, so, I mean, don't let us dissuade you from trying it out. I mean, just realize you're getting in for a very long game. Also, you need an X-Acto knife. So that's our non-spoiler review of the game. You can check out our spoiler one if you want. We're gonna spoil a lot, so I mean that's for mostly people who've already played it. But anyway, until next time, after this very lengthy review, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, thank you everybody.
Sam Healey, see you on the flip side.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.